Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining in this session. And I really hope you learn a lot. So let's start. The topic for today's session is the problem of problems, identifying problems. Now, this topic doesn't exactly look like a topic that one would be interested to learn or one would be interested to teach in the first place, right? But I've come to understand that it's very important, right? Being in a generation where the world and every most organizations now are looking for people who are able to solve problems, and they call them problem solvers. People are able to generate ideas, right? Everyone is looking for problem solvers, but one thing that people fail to understand is that in as much as we are trying to solve problems, the issue of identifying problem is also a case that should be handled independently. Now, there are several reasons why we should learn to identify problems. The first reason is for the sake of awareness, right? So during the course of this session, you're not going to see things like 10 steps to look for problems rather, or 10 steps to be a problem identifier, if there's anything like that. No, right? This is not the purpose of this session. If that's what we wanted to do, we would have just posted it out there and just be like 10 steps to be a problem identifier, or 10 steps to identify problems, right? But one of the reasons why we everyone needs to learn to identify problems is for the sake of awareness. Now, what do I mean by awareness? Part of the essence of education is to become aware, not just to gain knowledge. So you see that when you are educated or when you are taught things in school, right? The first effect or the first implication is that you gain knowledge, you increase in knowledge, you learn something new, right? The second thing or the second effect of that learning process, right, should be that you become aware, right, that what you have just learned should become a part of you subconsciously. We've talked about it on this group before that education is not just what you know, but who you become, right? So, for example, we have when you learn about certain scientific principles in basic science or physics or biology, you learn about the digestive system. Once you learn about that, right, you actually learn and not just cram and pour in exam. When you learn about that, it becomes subconscious, right? You can easily identify what process was going on, and when something is wrong too, you can also tell that, oh, something is wrong. And not only can you tell that something is wrong, you can tell what is wrong. So learning about identifying problems doesn't teach you steps on how to identify problems. It actually makes you more aware, more observant about your surrounding, about things that are happening around you, right? So that is the essence. That is part of the essence of learning how to identify problems. So when you learn about the concept of problem, which we are going to look into in more detail further on, when you learn about the concept of problem and other factors surrounding this topic, problem, right, you become more conscious about problems, and this exposes you to be more aware of what's going on in your environment, the flaws, the defects, and things related to that, right? Okay, so I was waiting for you guys to catch up with the latest VN. So let's go on. The next reason why we need to learn this is because of like I mentioned before, the demand of generating ideas and solving problems. Now there's a high demand out there for young people, especially because we believe that young people are more fluent in creativity and all of that, right? So there's a high demand out there for people to come up with ideas or to come up with solutions to solve problems. Now, for us to meet this demand, we have to understand the concepts that are involved, right? So when you're talking about problem solving, you can't talk about problem solving if you don't know the problem, or if you don't have an idea of the problem you can solve. Now, another thing to highlight about problem identification is that there are so many problems out there, but there's a problem that you can solve, that you should solve. So, because a problem exists does not mean that that is the problem that you are to solve. Because you may not have the potentials, you may not have the skill sets, you may not have all it takes to solve that problem. So, that is why before we even start talking about problem solving and problem identification, we have to understand our potentials, the things we can do, because it's all we can do that we would use to solve these problems. And whatever problem you're solving should be in line with your potentials and abilities. So you don't find yourself doing something, investing so much in a problem, or investing so much in finding the solution to a problem that you know fully well you are not properly equipped for it, right? So before problem solving and all of this, I just wanted to let us know that you'd have to understand your potentials and abilities, because it's very key in this whole process. Okay, moving forward, the last reason, there are so many reasons. I think I've highlighted more than two of them in the previous voice note. But the last reason is that when we talk about creativity, just as there's a high demand on generation of ideas and all of that, there's the concept of creativity has also become more paramount in these times, because people believe, and it's actually a fact, but I like to use the phrase that people believe that uh, creativity is very important when it comes to generating ideas, which I believe too, but I don't want to state it as a fact. Yeah. So yeah, people believe that creativity is important in generating ideas, right? And when once you hear the word creativity, the first thing that will come to your mind is, I mean, solving problems, generating ideas, like I said earlier. But creativity is not just solving problems, right? Creativity has two sides, and the side that is often overlooked is the side of identifying problems. The side of identifying problems. So, your ability to identify problems, your ability to observe your surrounding and take note of errors and take note of things that you can possibly improve on and all of that is also an aspect of creativity, right? Not just giving solutions, the ability to identify problems too. Now you know that we use the word identifying problems and not looking for problems, because the truth is that problems are all around us. Some of us having problems right now as I speak. Some of us are solving problems right now as I speak. Some of us are thinking about problems. The thing is, some of us in your immediate environment right now, you can look around and figure out problems. I mean, problems exist right as far as life exists. So that's just the thing. We'll come back to that point. But the point I want to make now is that you don't look for problems. You don't go in search. It's not a treasure hunt, right? Because these things are all around you. Just like you saying you're looking for oxygen, right? You don't go looking for air, right? Because it's all around you. What you need to do is become more aware and become more observant so that you can be able to identify these problems. So when you become aware of your environment and more observant, you are more prone to identify the problems around you. So it's not like you're looking for problems, right? You're not looking for them, right? It's all around you. You're just becoming more conscious of the fact that problems exist. Yes, there is a problem for everyone. This is how it works, right? Problems vary, which is what we are going to talk about soon. Problems vary, right? So depending on your potentials, part of the reasons why you have certain abilities that you do, or you have certain potentials, or you have certain talents that you do, is for you to, part of the reasons, not all, right? Part of the reasons is for you to address a problem. Now, when I mean addressing a problem, it may not be like, oh, building a tech company, or doing something like Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or something like that. No, the fact that you're able to come up with a business idea is a solution to a problem. The fact that you're able to help someone do something, or the fact that you're able to organize something, or you have great communication skills and you're able to speak fluently to people, or you're able to persuade people, or you have whatever skill, whatever potential you have innately, or whatever skill that you've learned, right? It's all geared towards solving a problem. It may not look so obvious at that point. It may not be obvious that you are solving a problem, but if you look delicately at the situation, you notice that what you're doing, right, is actually solving a problem. To make it more practical, what I'm doing now, I'm not I'm not currently selling anything, or I'm not currently, you know, building a car or solving a problem in climate change or all of that. But I'm providing you with information, I'm providing with knowledge and insights that can help you. Is solving a problem, is solving a problem of of lack of knowledge, if I may put it that way, right? So I'm solving a problem as I'm speaking to you, as I organize this program. Now I'm solving a problem, so I'm using the potentials that I have, right? Using the things that I know, and using my ability to communicate, I'm able to relay this information to you to the best of my ability. So I'm solving a problem. So if I didn't analyze this process to you now, it won't be so clear that what I'm doing is actually providing a solution or solving a problem. Do you understand? So let's move on. Now we're going to look at the origin of problems, why problems exist. Now, there's what we call the law of cause and effect, which states that everything happens for a reason, and for every cause there is an effect. So how does this relate to problems? If you are to relate this to problems, you'll notice that every single thing that exists every entity that exists has an effect on every other thing that exists, but they vary in the degree of effect, right? Let me come again so that you can get me clearly. Everything that is in existence right now as you speak, both living and non-living thing, has an effect on the general universe. So the effect of this individual entity varies, right? That means the effect of, let's say, one tree growing in a plot of land is different from 100 trees growing in that same plot of land, using the plot of land as the entire environment of that tree now. But both of them have an effect in that farmland or in that land, right? So the effect of things vary, right? So knowing that how everything has an effect on everything, both good and bad effects, right? Everything has an effect on everything. Now, over time, what we call problem solving or provision of solutions to problem has good effect, right? Because I mean it solves a problem. But looking at it from the other side or from another perspective, coming out of the box and thinking outside the box, you see that every solution that exists actually has a bad effect, but this effect differs in magnitude. For example, the problem we are currently having in the world with climate change, it didn't start in this 21st century, although it is in this time that people are trying to actually dig into it and provide solutions by doing research and coming up with ideas and all of that. So, but the problem didn't start today, right? The problem started way before, since the invention of cars and car engines and all of that. Since that time, we've been having, when all of those came as a great solution to aid transportation. It was a great idea then, right? It was a very brilliant idea, but then it had effects, right? Because I mean the combustible engine begins to release greenhouse gases, and that begins to affect the climate. Maybe they may not have known the significance of the effect then, or maybe the significance then was very little that they just ignored, but over time it begins to compound, right? And you see that that solution is actually creating a problem. So one of the first problem about problems is that problems always exist. The second problem about problems is that every solution has a problem, and it differs in magnitude, and it also differs over time. There's always something to improve on. There's, as far as imperfections still remain or still exist in the world, as far as we don't have any perfect ideal scenarios, as far as we don't have any perfect situations, then there will still be need for improvement. Right? A problem is not just anything that is so significantly distressing. It could be something that needs an update, something that needs to be upgraded, something that needs to be improved to further suit the purpose in which it's meant to fulfill, if I put it that way. So don't ever think that there's nothing to advance. There's always something. The people in China, they can never think that way, because if they think that way, then trust me, I believe they would have relaxed several years ago, because I mean they are ahead of most of the states, of the world or the countries of the world. So I mean they would have relaxed years ago, but they understand that there's always something to improve on, there's always something to work on. So don't have that ideology that there's very little to advance. Now there's always something to improve on. Okay, next we are going to look at classification of problem. So the word problem in itself is very broad, wide. Is as broad as if you want to talk about life itself. It's really broad. Like problems exist in different forms, manner, manifestation, display, expression, whatever word you want to use, and it has an effect on several things and it is caused by several things. So if you want to classify problems, you have to look at all the factors surrounding the word problem, and that's a lot. Actually, it's a lot. You can have more than I don't even know what to classify, but it's quite a lot to classify problems into different categories. So there are a lot of categories. Problem itself has a problem, right? So, but nonetheless, for the to make this session more uh, easy to comprehend, we are going to classify into two major categories, and that's the geographic category and then the demographic category problems, right? So we are going to divide problems into geographic and demographic categories. So why are we doing this? So that we can understand first of all how problems express how problems manifest, basically the forms of problems, so that we can become more aware, like I've been talking about. So when we talk about the geographic classification of problems, we speak of the areas, not just physical places like Nigeria or Abuja or Port Harcourt, or space or Mars or Earth, not just physical places now, but different fields of study, industries, anything that connotes a geographical sense, right? We can classify that under the geographical classification of problems. Now, every everything or every problem every problem has two major factors, and that was how I coined these two classification. There has to be a place. Like I said, it may not be a physical geographical place, right? It may be anything that connotes a geographical sense, like particular set of industry, a set of departments, things like that connotes geographical sense. And then every problem has an effect on things now. So we have place and things, and when it comes to things, it could be non-living and living things too, right? But we are going to use demographic as a term to address this, because most of the problems we face, they are problems because they affect us human beings, living things, not only human beings, living things also. So classification of problem, we talk about things like age, gender, ethnicity, employment status, marital status, basically things that relate to humans, right? different ways you can categorize or classify humans. So at different age there are different problems. Different genders have different problems. Different unemployed people have different problems from employed people. They face different problems. Married people face different problems from single people and the likes. Right? So that's another category in which you can classify problems if you want to. Okay, so the first misconception about identifying problem is that people often look for new things. They want to discover something new. They want to be an Albert Einstein or an Isaac Newton and the rest of that. They just want to discover something groundbreaking. And if they don't find that, they believe that they've not been able to identify any valid problem. The truth is that there's nothing new under the sun. Like these people, Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, yes, they made groundbreaking discoveries, like you say, discovery, right? They were able to discover something, but truly, they didn't find anything new. Anything they discovered was already in existence before they actually used their equations and thinking eloquence fluency to discover that which we now know, right? So there's actually nothing new. And like I tried to point out earlier, a problem must not be something that causes a significant distress that will make it obviously a problem. A problem could be something that you need to improve on, something that you need to adjust, something that you need to make better, right? So right now we have let's say an electric car, right? Now even though it's not used, it's not common everywhere yet. In the nearest future we'll have another type of car that runs in a different way, that doesn't even, maybe that one won't even need an engine at all, or it won't need wheels. No, cars need wheels. But you get what I'm trying to say, right? So problem could just mean that you're trying to improve on it, and this is what innovation means, right? You're not trying to invent something new, right? You're just trying to build up, improve certain things. So that can also be a problem, and I think that's even the best problems to look out for, right? Because everything that exists needs improvement. And you have building structures, the way of constructing buildings, right? You have your phones, there can be better features, there can be better application softwares that can make the phone more useful. I mean, you don't need to start looking for something so brand new. Everything that you think is new, someone else has thought about it, even though you haven't heard anybody say it, right? They may have thought about it. You don't know what's going on in people's mind. Sorry, the last VN was quite long. I'll try to keep all of them to at least 1 minute 30 minutes, 1 minute 30 seconds. Okay, so the second misconception is that you must identify a serious, difficult, complex problem. I mean, people like to be deep, like they want to discover something deep, that will make them look so look like a genius, basically. Okay, but the thing is that there is no problem if you look at it from a beginner's perspective. There is no problem that is actually insignificant, and let me explain. Yes, problems vary in degrees of their effect or their influence, but there is no problem that's insignificant. For example, Mark Zuckerberg, he knew his way around the computer system. He knew how to code and program and all of that. And that was his, let's say, that was his skill, that was his ability. And then, having that ability and skill, he didn't just leave it at that and knowing how to code and program and all of that. He then identified a lack somewhere. Like many people, the story you hear most of the times is that, oh, he just decided to create a platform where students of his school can, commune and all of that. Right, that's the story, because that's the story people want to hear. They want to hear how he was able to solve the problem. So that's what people usually focus on, but nobody focuses on how he was able to identify that this was a problem. So he had a skill and was able to identify that communication was actually a bit rigid between students, right? Maybe in his immediate student community in his school at that time was a little bit rigid and all of that, even with the introduction of internet. So he had a skill and he knew a little about how, not a little, I mean, he knew about how the internet works and all of that. So he was able to integrate his skill and his knowledge and the problem we identified in order to produce Facebook and solve the problem of people connecting easily and all of that. I was looking at that story, right? There were so many things happening. I think Facebook came 2006 or 4. Someone should let me confirm, but within those years, basically. And so there were so many things occurring, so many global problems that he would have thought of to think. He was just thinking based on his immediate surrounding. If you watch his interviews and all of that, he didn't expect Facebook, or he didn't know that Facebook would be a global stuff, right? He was just thinking about his immediate surrounding. Oh, how can I, connect everybody, the students in my school? Let's just find a way to a space online that we can commune and all of that. At that moment, it may seem so insignificant compared to the various, major problems. I mean, the internet was just coming in now, and programming languages were coming in. Things like that could be something he could have worked on. He would have developed a programming language or something. Well, he just thought about something simple. He was able to identify a simple problem, and now it's now a global solution, right? So, what makes a problem serious or deep, according to some people? What makes a problem deep is it's not the problem itself. It's about the person who is handling the problem, right? So you know how when you're trying to, okay, this one is very relatable. When we have problems, let's say you have problem with your grade at school, the more you focus on that problem, you're not focusing on solving the problem, you're just focused on the problem in itself, that, oh, this is not the grade I'm supposed to have, this is not the grade I'm supposed to have, why do I have this grade, why is it showing up? The more focused you are on it, the more serious it becomes, the more, deep it becomes, right? Because your thoughts, everything, you're beginning to become anxious. The same thing happens when you are trying to handle a problem and trying to solve a problem. The more you look into the solution of that problem, the more serious it becomes, right? The more deep, according to some people, it becomes, right? And the more you gain clarity about that problem. So it happens just as it happens in the negative side, the same way it occurs in the positive side. Yes, the last one is you must be a genius. No, You must not be a genius for you to identify problems. Maybe you may be a genius for you to solve problems, but for you to identify problems, you just need to be a human being. You just need to have your five senses working accurately. Even if you don't have up to five, no matter the amount that you have, right, you just need to have your senses working, and you just need to be more observant to identify a problem. Then when it comes to problem solving, you can leave that to the genius too, but it still doesn't. It still problem solving still doesn't rely on you being a genius, right? You just need to be creative, and creativity is a function of intelligence. And everyone that has a brain has an intellectual capacity. It just depends on how much you have been able to feed your intellectual capacity, or you have been able to train your intellectual capacity, right? So if you have an intellectual capacity, it means you have a certain level of intelligence. And if you have any amount of intelligence, it means you have a certain level of creativity. So creativity is not a gift given to people, rather it's something that you can build, it's something that you can develop, right? So yeah, you must not be a genius to identify a problem. You just need to be a human being that can comprehend things. You just need to be a human being basically. And then same with solving problems too. But you see, an equivalent to this question is every problem worth solving. Is every potential worth being utilized? That is an equivalent to this question. So if every potential and every ability and every gift is what's being utilized, is what's being used, then I believe every problem is what's being solved, right?